Okay, here's this basic training that I promised, and I wanted to make this as seamless as possible. I'm gonna move my microphone out of the way here. Here we go. You know how these things work. So, welcome back. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I'm trying to grow those followers, and every click helps. So please subscribe. So when I get the phone calls from investors or people who are looking to purchase a short-term rental, the first question, number one, hands down, is where should I buy a short-term rental property? So my answer is always, it depends. One, do you have boots on the ground? Who's going to be going to look at this property? Do they know the area? And who's going to manage it? You know, that's very important, because if you're not going to manage it, then who's going to do it for you, right? And when you're just starting out in the short-term rental industry, what you should do is really focus on places that you like to go to, that you like to vacation or visit, because you're going to be spending some time there when you're getting it up and running. So it's always important to kind of know the area before you start diving into short-term rental, the short-term rental business. Now, what you want to know is what the demand is in the area. And I do have an example in this short class that I'm doing. But number one, you want to find out what will draw people to this area. Why would they come? Why would they stay in your short-term rental? Is there a college by? Is there universities? Is there hospitals? Is it a tourist destination? Is it seasonal? Meaning, is it up in the mountains? Although I do like to go to the mountains when, it's not, I don't want it to cool off from the hot Texas summers. And then you need to find out how many short-term rentals are in the area, because one of the challenges right now that hosts are facing is a saturation. So you kind of want to make sure that you're not buying into an area. It might seem the numbers may all look good, but then when you find out you're competing against 50 other properties, that might not be a good place to have a short-term rental. And then, of course, look for any restrictions. Make sure you're reading your covenants of the HOA. Are there any deed restrictions? Check out the website for any cities that you're considering, because that can change. And the last thing you want to do is buy a property that you then are banned from doing short-term rentals. And just to clarify, a short-term rental is what I'm referring to today is anything less than 28 days. You can do midterm rentals, which those, sometimes nurses, or I rent a lot to people who, like contractors that are working on the roads and things like that. So the rental agreement may be longer than 28 days, and that's a whole other, I actually have a class on that, so you might want to check that out. And then you're going to want to find out what your estimated earnings are, and do you have reliable vendors, especially the cleaning companies, who's going to take care of the property, unless you're planning on doing that yourself, which I don't recommend since you want to scale this. And then you want to see, does it attract a wider range of people besides just people coming to visit the area? So there's traveling nurses, there's, students, visiting professors, business travels, snowbirds, insurance companies. I've been contacted by insurance companies who their client is maybe their house was damaged by a flood or fire, and they need temporary housing until everything is fixed. Realtors are a great source of referrals, because if they have a client that sold their home and they need a temporary place to stay until their new home is ready. So, you can network with a lot of different ways to find, besides just going on platforms. So the two platforms that I use are Airbnb and VRBO. Airbnb, I get about 85% of all my bookings from there, and VRBO. I have been on Furnished Finders, and it's kind of hit or miss because of where my properties are located. Now, I just picked this property randomly. I found it on the MLS, because sometimes I buy properties off the MLS. And I picked Sherman, Texas, because, Dallas, where I'm from, is, that's a no-brainer. There's a lot of things to do and see in Dallas. So I thought I would do an example of a property that's kind of like outside the city limits, if you will. So Sherman, Texas, if you don't know, it is having huge growth right now. Big semiconductor hub. They're close to casinos. There's a wildlife refuge up there. They have breweries, festivals, they have a college, they have hospitals. So they have all the things that would attract people to come to that area. So that's, yay, that's good. Now, how would I determine income though? Okay, so I found a place that, hey, people are coming and whatnot. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to the website AirDNA, not Airbnb, but AirDNA. I use the free account, and you can pretty much type in any address pretty much in the United States. I said pretty much, pretty much. I've never had any issues. You might have to kind of play with the website a little bit if you're just using the free. You can also, sign up for subscription services. And you want to just type in the address and then update the bedrooms because it usually doesn't have the correct bedrooms, because what you're looking for is how many guests you can sleep there. Now, this property was a 4-bedroom, but I wanted to be conservative in my numbers. And what I have found is that there's not much difference between how much you can earn from a property that sleeps 6 and a property that sleeps 8. So because this property seems to be like it might be on a septic system, I prefer to go with the lower number of guests. And then you're going to hit search, and then you're going to come up with this little calculation here. So on this particular property, it says that we can make $12,000 a year, approximately. Remember, these are estimations. This is not, exactly what you're going to do. This is estimations. The average daily rate, $161 a night. Hey, that's pretty good, but we're going to talk more about this occupancy rate, but the occupancy rate is very low. So if you have a property that you're looking at short-term rental and you go through the exercise I just showed you, and it comes up less than 50%, you're not going to want to explore that being a short-term rental. It's just not going to make you the income. Now, the next thing I do is I look at, okay, I go to Google Maps and I literally, put in the address to find out where it is in relationship to other things in the area, the freeways, and I also go to Google Earth so I can get kind of that satellite search. And what I'm looking for here is, what does the surrounding area of the property look like? Like, is there a dump in the backyard? So you don't want to do that. Water treatment plants, sewer plants, livestock area, anything that's going to cause a smell, on a windy day. You might not smell it when you go there, but your guests are going to smell it. And even if this was like the perfect property, but people started complaining about, oh, it really smells or whatever. So you want to look for things that might be an eyesore to your guests. So put yourself in the position of a guest, and would they see this as an eyesore? Okay. Now we're going to drop back to nightly rate versus occupancy rate. So the nightly rate, remember, is just an approximation. It's only, an estimation. It's not like, oh, you are going to get this. The occupancy rate, what that represents is how often will that property, the likelihood of that property being booked. So in our example here, it's 20%. So that's not very good, not very good. Also, that annual revenue, that's the gross. So that doesn't include, well, it's not the net, right? So you got to take the annual gross revenue, subtract all your holding costs, and then that's going to be your net income that you could potentially make off this property. So right off the bat, the nightly rate looks really good for this property, but the occupancy rate is too low and the annual revenue is way too low. So that right there probably says it's not going to be a good short-term rental, but we'll keep going. So what we want to do next is say, okay, well, maybe those numbers aren't so bad, Nancy. I'm paying cash for the property. I got it, really cheap or something like that. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go find the competition. And this is where it gets really fun. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Airbnb as a guest. So if you're already a host, don't log into your account. You're going to go like you're looking for a place to book. And you're going to check to see how many other properties are in the area, right? So you'll look for short-term rentals that are similar to yours. So, in this case, we're doing the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, with 6 guests. So you want to kind of compare to see how many other are out there. Now, on the Airbnb site, this is what it looks like if you go into as a guest. Now you can see, you can search for, does it have golfing around, windmills? I mean, there were so many things. It used to be it didn't have all of that. So they have changed that. So you'll go there as a guest and you'll enter the location. So just the city. So in this case, we've used Sherman, Texas. And you would put in dates that are not like holidays. What you're trying to do is find kind of those off dates that people probably aren't traveling. I like to go like a Monday through a Thursday, because my goal here is to find out how many properties are out there. So if they're already booked, they're not going to show up. So you want to kind of do different date ranges to see, what your goal here is to get as many properties to come up as available that you can find around where you're trying to buy a short-term rental. Now, this is what it looks like. So you can see the Airbnb properties in the area. You can see, like in Sherman, Texas, they actually have quite a few. I was actually shocked when I saw this. And the nightly rate, now that's not the 528 and the 1,268. When I put in like 3 or 4 days, that's the amount it's telling me that the total guest would pay, right? So the earnings, basically, if you will. On the subject property area, you can see that there are no Airbnbs out there. There's none out there. Now, this was out in the country, so that might be attractive, but there's no competition, which could be a good thing, or people don't even want to go there, right? They're not going to travel there. So this is how you get to see how many properties for the saturation level, right? So the cool thing about Airbnb, it'll take you a little time to do this, but what you'll want to do is once you go in there as a guest and this map comes up, you'll want to keep zooming in, because the more you zoom in, you have to move the cursor around and all that. But what will happen is the street name will come up, not the street address. So when I'm looking for a short-term rental potential, I zoom in because I want to know how many are on the street I'm in, how many are around the block. So you just keep zooming in until you see the street numbers. And it's really cool. I didn't know you could do that, but I'm sharing that tip with you. Now, you will want to analyze the financial outcome. So what are you paying for the property? Are there any repairs? And what are your holding costs? So a couple of things I want to talk about here is when you have a short-term rental, midterm, anything besides a long-term rental, you're going to be paying all the holding costs. So not only are you going to buy the property, and even if you do rental arbitrage, again, another course, you still have holding costs. So you have to have insurance. And remember, not all insurance companies are the same. So you have to make sure you tell them it's short-term rental. You're going to have utilities. If you have a hot tub like I do, you have to have somebody come out and service the hot tub. You're going to have ongoing maintenance, supplies, and taxes, and not just property taxes, but you're also going to have to pay what's called the hotel tax, the hot tax. So usually every city has that you have to pay. You'll also want to make sure about what the HOA city restrictions are, and then the cost of furnishing. So I've done other videos where I've talked about the cost of furnishing a short-term rental. So I've done it for as less as is that the right way to say it? $5,000. But I've also spent 15, and I know people that have spent 50. So it just depends on how you're going to trick it out, what it's going to look like, what amenities are you going to have. And then if you are going to have somebody manage the property, that'll be an additional cost. And typically to have your short-term rental managed is somewhere between 20 and 25%. I have seen places that do 10, and if they're doing 10%, you probably don't want to hire them because they're more on volume. And then there's other people that are charging a whole lot more, but 20 to 25% is pretty much the industry standard. Don't forget about your cleaning fees. So after doing this for a couple of years, this is what I know. Cleaning fees, the cleaners have figured it out, right? They know that the cleaning aspect of keeping your short-term rental in good standing with guests is to have a great cleaning crew. So the cleaners are now charging way more than they used to, like even a year ago. So and especially if you're in a smaller town, your choices are limited. And right now for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, I'm paying about $175 for $180 per cleaning, right? And then the other thing, just a little side note on cleaning fees. So guests get, let's say that your rental per night is $150 or even $200. So if the guests are paying, a $200 cleaning fee, they're like, what? So there's some ways that you can kind of finagle your cleaning fee to build it into your nightly cost. But again, that's in my other course. So you want to look at what your gross income is, and then just subtract all of your expenses. And that's what you're going to come up with your net income potential. Now, if you're an owner and you're looking for other ways to make money off of the short-term rental industry, this is a little bonus for you guys. You can actually start having your transportation services or tours or, meals or, personal experiences. So one lady that I know, she has a photography company, and she's pet friendly. So what she does is she offers a package to her guests where she takes family portraits with their pets. They love it. She's killing it. I personally have a detached garage on my properties, and that is not usually available to my guests. But if they want to rent it, then it's an additional charge per night for the days they want to use the detached garage. You can do upselling, meaning like, let's say you are in primarily a weekend area where people are only coming for the weekend. So you can upsell for early check-in, or you can offer something like if they're supposed to check out and you want to try and get one more night, you can say, hey, I'm going to offer you 50% off if you want to stay another night. Doesn't always work, but hey, every night that you get another buck counts, right? Some hosts, they have their own artwork that they hang into their properties and they sell that. And you can also partner with your local restaurants or venues and maybe receive a commission for each guest that you send to them. Now, if you're a realtor, if you're watching this, or you're thinking about becoming a realtor, there are so many ways that you can make money. Not only are you selling the property to your client, but you can actually start a cleaning service. This is like really important for a host to have a great cleaning service or a handyman service. You can co-host, you can manage all their services, just manage their inventory. I was hired to literally oversee the property being filled with furniture and supplies and things like that. So somebody else was doing the work. I was just overseeing, make sure it was being done. And realtors can add on this service. And if you're a photographer, I already gave you a great example for that. So just some additional income that you can earn off of the short-term rental business. Now, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence with you if I didn't talk about the risks. So number one, it's zoning. I mean, you can read it almost every day. There's some cities saying that they're, going to ban them. They're going to restrict them. I'm okay with them permitting short-term rentals because that keeps the bad host, out of the program, because bad hosts give the rest of us hosts a bad name. So I'm okay with that. I'm in Dallas, Texas, and so they're kind of deciding how they're going to go. You also have to be ready for the downturn in the market. So there is a lot of saturation right now. There are still some places that are just thriving with the short-term rental market. So again, it all goes back to where you're going to purchase. And then what are you going to do? So you always need to have, as I say, plan B. So if it doesn't work out as a short-term rental, what are you going to do with that property? Can you own or finance it? Can you turn it into a long-term rental? So you just kind of have to know what your exit strategies are going to be. And then if you're going to manage it yourself, and I can tell you, I do my own, now have a property management background, but it's really pretty simple. I don't have like 10, 20, 30 properties, but a lot of things can be automated. Getting a good cleaning / handyman crew in there to help you with the inventory and things like that makes the world of difference. And one of the things that you do have to be prepared is like, every now and then you're going to get that bad guest review. And just a personal story I'm going to share. I went through many a cleaner. And what happens when the guest goes in and if the cleaning is not done the way it needs to be done, you're going to get a bad review. You might get 5.55s, and that's the rating system of Airbnb, but you get dinged on the cleaning. You get, so when that happens too many times, people are going to go, well, I don't want to go to that Airbnb or VRBO property because, they don't do a good job cleaning. So always be on top of that. And I got a 3, I got a couple 4s, and I got a 3, and I had to fire the cleaner because that's my business. That's your business. And you really need to be paying attention to that. So that's all I'm going to say about cleaning. You just got to make sure you got a good cleaner. Now, remember, always do your due diligence when you're purchasing a property. Make sure you do an inspection. I feel that you need to do an inspection, especially if you're new to any investing. Do your due diligence, put your eyes on the property, or if you have a trusted boots on the ground, make sure that all the legalities are taken care of, close at a title company, or an attorney's office, and really do your financial due diligence as well. I'm always available. I have my contact page here, so just give me a ring, or you can email me. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm going to be on YouTube. And, if you want to talk further about starting your short-term rental, I do have an online academy. And if you're just new to real estate investing and you're just looking like, how do I get my start in the door, Nancy? You know what? I've got the course for you too. So reach out. I'm always here. Love to talk with you, and leave me a comment below. You'll see a link in the comments to my Airbnb course and also to my how to get started in real estate and recognize a deal. So that's always a good, just beginner course. If you just don't know, very affordable, and it gives you an idea. Yes, I'm ready for this. Are you ready for the next step? So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see y'all soon.